regular season has ended. And for that, some teams, a good margin of teams, their entire season has ended. And as we move into the offseason, there are some things that these teams need to do to get better, whether they go out in free agency, the draft, coaching searches, whatever. But we're going to break down team by team as we go along what we think these teams need to do to get better through the offseason. A little review, a checklist that they need to go through to get better in the coming year. And why not? What better place to start than from the very bottom and working our way up? So, in a crazy turn of events, because the Lions just won too much, the Jaguars have now secured once again the first pick in the draft. So, here we go. Our first checklist, the Jaguars checklist. Number 1 on the list. Nick, why don't you read that for us?
Yeah, so we have them in their number 1 goal is hiring Eric Bieniemy or similar to be their new head coach. Obviously, the Urban Meyer experiment failed. It was a big disaster. With Urban Meyer, they went after the big name, the proven guy who's won before to come in, change the culture, motivate the troops, turn it all around. Didn't work at all. They need to change their focus. They need to bring in an offensive-minded guy who's worked with young quarterbacks with a lot of talent, with big arms, and put them in an offense that takes advantage of their abilities and allows them to grow and be productive, right? So Trevor Lawrence is that guy. Patrick Mahomes was that guy. Eric Bieniemy, offensive coordinator in Kansas City, slide into Jacksonville, boost up Trevor Lawrence as he tries to, improve off his dismal rookie year. This has to be the fit here. Look, and if Eric Bieniemy turns it down, go after some, the next tier of offensive-minded coaches that are up, offensive coordinators, with a quarterback focus. I'm looking at Byron Leftwich in Tampa, maybe Kellen Moore in Dallas, some names thrown around there. You have to bring in a quarterback-friendly guy to be your head coach. Trevor Lawrence needs a McVay. Trevor Lawrence needs a Doug Peterson, needs an Andy Reid, needs a, name an offensive-minded head coach to turn his career around. He was awful as a rookie. Now, it wasn't all his fault. His team was terrible. The environment was terrible. But it's very quickly to become bad rookie year to potential bust. And the quickest way you can turn that around is get an offensive coordinator, head coach type to run the team to focus on Lawrence.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. That, like we said, pivoting off that, some things they don't need to do. Don't go hire from college again. That's probably the worst thing you can do. Hiring from college would be a terrible decision. Don't go pick up a defensive coach like as good as these guys are. You don't want Dan Campbell or Robert Saleh or someone like that. Dan Quinn, anyone like that who's available. Those guys aren't going to be what you need for a young Trevor Lawrence. You need a guy who's your head coach who, like you said, the first thing in their mind is getting this offense going. We got to get firepower. We got to get it going. We got to get Trevor Lawrence comfortable and get him back in his rhythm. This basically was a wasted year for Trevor Lawrence. He probably got nothing out of it. He hasn't developed at all. If anything, he might have regressed some. So they've got to undo all the bad that is done. But speaking of that, what do we have for number 2 on our list?
Number 2 is cut the Urban Meyer fat. So this is anyone in the organization. This could be player. This could be a coach. This could be water boy. Anyone in the organization who's an Urban Meyer acolyte, someone who believes what Urban Meyer believes and was really behind Urban Meyer's vision for how the Jacksonville Jaguars should be ran. Now, it doesn't mean every little thing Urban Meyer ever thought or said in Jacksonville, is blasphemous and should be wiped from history. But the fact of the matter is you have to, put the past completely behind you and completely move full speed ahead. And you can't do that if you have another coach's guys hanging around. So make sure you cut all of the fat. I'm looking at Carlos Hyde, the veteran running back who took playing time away from some, valuable young players that Jacksonville had, especially later in the year. Move on from him. Pick anyone in the organization that's an Urban Meyer guy and get rid of him, right? Time for a clean slate, move forward, completely 180-degree shift from what they were last year.
Yeah, I agree with that. But there are some good things that Urban Meyer did. One of those good things is he had the mentality of, guys, it doesn't matter if we win or lost. After the game, just go out, have a little fun, cut loose. You know, don't get hung up on the W's and the L's. We gotta have a good time. So that's one thing that they can hold on to. Maybe let the pressure off. Don't take yourself too seriously.
Yeah, I see the thing with Urban Meyer that always tripped me up was how and I've read Urban Meyer, and I'm sure he has multiple books, but I've read a couple of Urban Meyer's books, and he treats himself the way he writes about himself and what he does as he never cuts loose. He's all serious all the time.
Oh yeah,
So
I'm sure.
I bet that's what he was trying to sell himself as to the players. And then he goes off and does the thing in Columbus and all that week 3. So I think with the players are probably, they wouldn't even, if a guy came in who actually believed that mindset, now they probably wouldn't even, who actually wanted and legitimately was a no nonsense guy, the players probably wouldn't even believe him. They think he was another Meyer.
Yeah. So that's not what they do. And then the last thing that we have on our list, I think, is probably tied for the first most important thing that they should do. So we have draft weapons for Trevor. How important is this, Nick?
Yeah, this is right up there with Eric Bieniemy, hiring Eric Bieniemy, an offensive minded head coach. So they have the number 1 overall pick, and let's face it, it means they're either going to get Thibodeau or Hutchinson, unless they're able to trade back, which I would recommend they try to do. Historically, it's impossible to trade back from number 1, to get any sort of value. It just doesn't happen. So they're going to have to go defensive end at Hutchinson or Thibodeau, number 1, and that's fine. I think both of them are going to be fine NFL players. Starting with their first pick in round 2 and all the rest of the draft, go heavy on offense. Give Trevor Lawrence weapons. And I'm looking at George Pickens, right? We saw him from Georgia. I'm looking at Trey McBride, the tight end from Colorado State. If John Mechie from Alabama, the receivers available, maybe second, third round, he may be another guy. Get him elite weapons that are available second, third round. You can get good offensive players in the second or third round. Surround Trevor Lawrence with playmakers and guys. He didn't have nearly enough of them last year in Jacksonville. I think his number 3 receiver, or number 2 receiver, I think actually, was it LaQuavion Treadwell, who was an absolute bust out of Ole Miss. Everywhere he went, he was an absolute bust. And it just he was an absolute travesty. And he goes to Jacksonville just out of desperation. He's actually one of their bigger targets, one of their bigger weapons. That can't happen again if Trevor Lawrence is going to take the next step. So 100% heavy on the draft, get weapons for Trevor Lawrence.
Who is that receiver in the bowl games? Not national championship, but the bowl games. He got 300 plus receiving yards. What is he going into the draft?
No, that's Njobe Smith, I think, from Ohio State.
Yeah, he's a sophomore, isn't he?
Yeah. He only played because the 2 receivers, Garrett Wilson and Olave, the starters, are going into the draft, and they're first round picks.
Olave, another good looking receiver they could go after. But like we said, I think it is paramount that they draft weapons for Trevor Lawrence, because you really have to get him going in this offense. You have to get him a good tight end safety blanket. You have to give him, like you said, develop those good young running back talents behind him. Give him the receivers to make the big plays, to get the easy reads. And, the offensive line, make sure it's good enough that he's not running for his life. You don't want another Joe Burrow incident with the Bengals. And still this year, as good as Burrow was this year, same problem. He's running around for his life every single play. So they really have to develop all 3 of these things. And if they do these things, I think we'll see a significant turnaround. I think they can be an 8-8 team, or I guess was it 9-8 team now. Yeah. I think that they can grow, and that they can really go from being last place team twice in a row to someone who might be a little bit of a problem in their division. So that's very interesting.
And you brought up a great model, right? It's the Joe Burrow and the Bengals model, right? Joe Burrow, I think they already had Joe Mixon, but they drafted Jamar Chase, Higgins, I'm forgetting the receiver from Clemson who also plays there.
T. Higgins.
There you go, T. Higgins. I forgot his first name. But yeah, so he plays there as well. They got him. The Cincinnati Bengals drafted him as well. So they created a culture around Burrow, allowed him to be successful by getting him weapons and playmakers.
Yeah.
Right. And that's kind of what Jacksonville needs to follow. That's the model they need to follow to give Trevor Lawrence the ability to be successful. I think if they try and follow what the Bengals emulated, right? Because it kind of worked. They got the offensive-minded quarterback head coach and Zach Taylor, and they gave Joe Burrow weapons, and the Bengals have had some success. I think if the Jaguars follow that model, they can improve pretty quickly in the
Bengals
AFC
also cut some of the fat. They got rid of AJ Green, who I wouldn't call fat. He's doing okay, but they didn't hold on to anything. They wanted to restart. They wanted to get a fresh system in place.
Exactly. They moved on. Turn it around, move on, focus on the future, not the past.